Space Arena.
Ground Arena.
SAGA Podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Space Arena, Ground Arena, where we cover Star Wars Unlimited from the ground up into space. Back after a little bit with Mr. Ben. Mr. Ben, what have you been up to? Where you been? How you doing?
Oh man, it's already been a heck of a year and we're only like not even a full 3 months in. It's been pretty wild. Kids have kept me real busy. Life has kept me real busy, but it's good to be back here to talk about some set 4 cards today. How about you, man?
I'm good. Been, playing as much as I can, but 3 kids all in different youth sports keeps me busy. So, but yeah, we're gonna jump to Lightspeed pre-release. Pretty much everybody has all their product because you could get all of it at your pre-release event. I wasn't able to play at any pre-release events, but I did pick up Carbonite box and a case, and then I sold a showcase I got out of the Carbonite box and got another Carbonite box. So I ended up with 2 Carbonite boxes in a case. Did okay.
Talk to me about your Carbonite boxes. How do you feel about those now that the packs have been opened? The dopamine has receded from your brain. Do you have any buyer's remorse? Do you feel like you did well? Like, what do you think of the product?
I feel like I did well. I think it's a pretty cool product. Like, really, I think they could get rid of the foils part of it and just have like all hyperspaces and then like the prestige cards, because the foils are already Pringles.
That's not
You know what I mean? Like, so, but the prestige cards are really nice, and I got a serialized ghost. And the serialized ones are like, they're like textured as well. So it's a nice touch. So I think those cards are cool. Getting the increased chance at legendaries and showcases is cool, but definitely if your cards are game pieces, it's completely unnecessary. But for people that are collectors or, are into the shiny things, it's a cool product. If you're looking to flip, I think, like, I have a bunch of stuff I'm going to get ready to list here to sell. And I think I'll definitely be able to make my money back from it. I'm only going to keep like a couple of the prestige cards that I like, and the rest I'm going to try to sell. And I have an Akbar showcase I got that I'm going to try to sell if anybody wants the Skater Boy. But yeah, I mean, it's an okay product, but it's definitely a collector thing. Yeah, that's my general thought. I think if you're just in it for the game pieces, it's completely unnecessary. But if you're a collector or you're looking to flip some cards, I think it's worth it there then.
Enough.
What are your thoughts on it?
I'm completely disinterested. I'm 100% cards or game pieces kind of person. Like, I mean, I'm not silly. If I open something that's like foil or hyperspace, I understand the cards look cool. I can appreciate it, and I'll definitely turn around and sell things. Like, I'll put the effort in to like get my money back out of the product. But that's not the main reason I'm here. The main reason I'm here is playing cards. So I remember the first time I walked into a store and I was like, a Magic collector pack? What does that mean? I hadn't played Magic in like 20 years. And they're like, $25. And I'm like, nah,
Yeah,
this is not for me. And I still feel that way. Like, the cards are beautiful. I'm not going to crap on the cards, but this product, yeah, this is not a product for me.
yeah, it's fair, definitely. I was initially not gonna get any Carbonite boxes, and then like I had enough store credit that I was like, sure, let's get one, and then ended up with 2 after selling the showcase back to the store. So,
I mean, I'm sure it's fun. Opening packs where the cards look gorgeous is really fun.
Yeah.
But again, the main thing I'm here for is what I do with those cards after they're out of the pack. So I'm not the target audience, but I don't want to be negative. Like, I don't want to yuck your yum. If you had a good time with it, I'm very happy for you.
Yeah, for sure. So now I have the Akbar showcase, which I don't want. The showcases I would want from this set are Piet, Phasma, and the new Boba Fett. But all right, that's enough about me. What have you gotten any Jump to Lightspeed product yet? And if you have, what have you gotten? How have your packs been?
Yeah, I've more or less, with my attention being divided in the way that it has, rather than trying to play a little bit of everything, which is what I really like to do. I like to play all the leaders. Instead, this time around, I've just focused on getting the cards that I think are going to plug into the one deck that I know I really like, which is my set one Thrawn. So I've been very selective with my engagement with Jump to Lightspeed. I do have some sealed boxes that me and the kid were supposed to open at some point, but it has not happened yet. But yeah, it's as far as the cards themselves, I'm very excited. I was very bummed to miss out on pre-release events, but I'm gonna go fight a dude here on the 22nd, so I had to prioritize training this time around over going out and playing cards. But there's definitely some stuff to be very excited about in this new set. What are your like first impressions of Jump to Lightspeed?
I like it. I think it's a cool set. I think it's a better set than Twilight overall. I think it's right. Like I still think Spark's probably like the best set, and then I think this is probably a little better than Shadows too. Like I think this set's really good. I think it has some leaders that definitely have some potential, and just the cards in it and like the piloting mechanic and that stuff. I think all has potential to be good for a long time. This is a cool, like, knowing that this is going to be the foundation of like what the meta is after the first rotation. Like these cards stick around, so that's another point that is interesting to me, that this set is the one that they like marked as when rotation triggers, this block stays. Yeah, but it's been fun for me so far, trying all kinds of different stuff. Phasma and new Boba Fett have been my favorites, but Poe ECL was a lot of fun, and recently the group's been pretty high on different versions of Piet.
I've seen him a lot.
Yellow is the preferred one for Sam and I at this point, I think, and then John has been playing red and blue back and forth, but I'm a big fan of the yellow version. It has just has the cool tricks that you can do that the other ones can't. But yeah, and new Thrawn's cool. I like new Thrawn. Been playing him with command. That's pretty fun. So yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with a lot of the new stuff. So I think it's a good set. But also tomorrow we're getting a new rules update and a new tournament doc and master document. And one of the things that they talked about is double loss going away. So I know, like, especially playing a Thrawn deck, a Thrawn 1, what are your thoughts on the double loss going away?
I have said on the show before, so I'll try not to belabor the point too much here, but I have always strongly disliked the double loss. Not necessarily what they were trying to do with it on paper. Like, I understand the idea of intentional draws isn't where we want to be, so incentivizing playing out the set on paper sounds like a good idea, but the reality of that rule is way too many games ended one game to one game, and then with this like awkward staring contest, because if you take the double loss, that's worse actually for your long term, like for your tiebreakers, than just okay, you can win, you just beat me here. Taking the double loss, not only are you getting the loss, but your opponent is a much worse tiebreaker because he's also getting a loss. So it's just bad. So you're not supposed to table talk and like make these deals, but like it happened all over the place. Like the whole thing was a mess. So I love that they're coming in and cleaning this up. I like that there's points for draws now. Now, this, we have to be like clear-eyed about it. There is potential for some negative outcomes here, for some bad feelings as well. So I think we should be vigilant as the new rules roll out, particularly once we start playing with them, to make sure like that we didn't exchange one thing that kind of sucked for another thing that has problems. Like, let's not just assume everything's perfect now, but overall, I am very optimistic, assuming the rules roll out with the update as like the rumors have said on the internet and everything.
Yeah. I think it was needed. I think it was definitely a feels bad for the first year of the game. And once again, I think FFG has shown they're listening and they care and they're making the appropriate change for the betterment of the game. So I think this is definitely a win. So as far from what I understand, draws will be worth 1 point and wins will be worth 3. So there you go. That's how that's going to work.
But again, I want to be open to, if once this rolls out and we see it hitting stores, if there's problems, if ultimately the proof is actually the previous system worked better. I don't think that's going to be the case. I would not predict that that's going to be the case, but I don't want to be so entrenched in hating the old system that we overlook any potential flaws in the new one. But again, I'm very hyped for this new system.
Yeah. All right. Jump to Lightspeed. We each picked a couple cards we're excited about that we've been playing with or have been having fun with. So we'll start with one of Mr. Ben's cards. We'll go through his cards and then mine. So let me share this so everybody that's watching can Appreciate this. So the first one, I'll let you take it away.
All right. So I have crapped on basically every non like every rare base. I've had negative stuff. Even ECL, I haven't like been as hype on it as a lot of other people have. So I do feel a little silly being like, "Hey, I finally found a rare base I like." But this is great. I obviously this isn't going to be proper for every different type of deck that's out there, but for the type of decks that I like to play, where I want to try to beat you by making forcing the game to go across more total decisions, more total turns, and the incremental value that I can squeeze out of my cards is going to beat your incremental value until you have no. Starting with one less card, I do not care. I normally don't have a turn one play. I just want to get control of the initiative on turn one with most of my decks. So this is just a complete. It's basically like having a card in my deck that says play for free, heal for 5. I mean,
Yeah.
it's better than that because you can't overheal in this game. So starting at 35 is actually significantly better than starting at 30. But it's kind of like having a free event that lets me just overheal to 5 on the first turn. It's great. I love it. I love everything about it. I've had no game where I've been like, oh man, I really wish I had this one other extra card. That said, there's enough discard effects out there in the game that you could potentially get punished for playing this, but so far I've had nothing but good times.
I haven't played with it yet, but I definitely see the appeal of the 5 extra health, even at the cost of one card. And I think your analogy is pretty good, where it's you're a 0 cost event that gives you 5 health. That makes complete sense. So yeah, that's the Colossus, Mr. Ben's favorite base. Next,
At the moment, that is true, yes.
all right, his next card he's excited about.
This is ridiculous. This solves so many problems for us as the slower control player. Things like Ruthless Raiders, that extra 2 damage they give you when they die, or K2SO is another great example where it's like, oh man, if I could just avoid that when defeated. Now, not only does this allow you to avoid it, it allows you to hurt your opponent back with it. On top of being able to get around things like Phantom, like give me that Phantom, now it's mine. Now this effect can kill it because it's no longer an enemy effect. This just it solves so many of the problems of the control decks we're looking at. I mean, it's immediate swap. As much as I loved Vanquish, it's time to say goodbye to an old favorite and replace it with a strictly better upgrade over Vanquish. Great, great, great stuff. I like it a lot.
Yeah, and this obviously goes really well with Neutron, since when you trigger a when defeated effect, he can trigger it again. So like stealing the K2, stealing the Ruthless Raider, and then doubling up on the when defeated effect is pretty strong.
Well, and
some
when
of
I
these
start
cards.
actually building with set 4 leaders, which at this point all I've done is grab some cards and slot them into my existing decks. But when I start building with set 4 leaders, Thrawn is probably going to be the first one, and this card is definitely a lock to fit into that deck for sure.
Yeah, and it also gets around like people playing new Chewy that can't be defeated or returned to hand by enemy effects. So when you steal it and it becomes yours, then you're able to defeat it because it's yours at that point. So yeah,
I mean,
and the
sound a
same reason it
little
works with
bit
Phantom.
it sounded a little bit hypocritical, saying, oh, I only care about game pieces. I really appreciate this art too. I think this art looks so cool. The super lasers coming out of the Star Destroyers just ripping through that ship. Like I love it. I love everything about this card. Probably the card, the actual. I mean, bases are. This is the card that I'm actually most excited about in the whole set. I think.
It's a good one, definitely, especially when you start playing with Neutron. I think that's going to be your jam. All right, the big boy,
Again, to kind of go against
the
the persona
Annihilator.
I've built for myself on the show. I have a unit here instead of an event card. I have been playing this unit, and this unit is great. So it answers a lot of problems that we run into in these late game control decks, particularly against command control decks that tend to get to their end game a little bit sooner than we do. Relentless is a real problem if you don't have a super laser, a cheap way to get to your super laser blast. So you play that restock or that restore or whatever, then super laser. That's fine. but this lets you kind of skip that step. So it gives you immediate impact when it hits the board, and if your opponent responds with a removal, you just get to do it again. Like I had an interaction today where I played this and killed, I think it was Devastator. So I wiped the Devastators out, and then they responded into my Annihilator with an Avenger. So I got to wipe their Avengers out right after it, which you can't count on your opponent to make those kinds of misplays, but that's the kind of play pattern that I just absolutely adore with this. In addition to being an immediate threat that not only solves a problem on board, but can go into the hand and into the deck to solve that problem for the rest of the game, assuming no graveyard recursion. That sort of backdoor helps our mill condition, which is something a lot of the blue control players are still relying very heavily on vigilance for all of the obvious and very good reasons. This fits right into that. I could go on and on and on about this. Between this, Avenger, my removal package, like, okay, I'm gonna play some units again, guys, I guess.
Yeah, so for those listening, this is the Annihilator, 11 cost, 12/12 with the when played, when defeated. You may defeat an enemy unit, and if you do, search its controller's deck and hand for each card with that unit's name and discard them. So if you're playing like a green-red Piet deck and you hit a Devastator, you hit the green ones and the red ones. It doesn't check subtitle, it just checks the name. Another thing, if you hit like a Luke leader or a Vader leader in with the when played, you get to search all the units that are Luke or Vader also. So it's every copy of that card with that name, not just that specific card.
11 cost is a lot, but I
It
mean,
is.
I'm playing a deck that wants to go to turn 18 for my win condition, or 18 resources for my win condition. So 11 is like whatever. Apologies that I didn't read the card first. I'm just so excited about it.
Yeah. No, it's cool. So the Annihilator is, I did get a like the prestige art of the Annihilator, and it looks awesome. That's what I'm keeping. That and the Executor, those both, even though I might not ever play them, those ones just look so awesome that I'm keeping those. But yeah, if you can get to it, it's definitely a big problem for your opponents. I think it's cool. First one, mine probably aren't as exciting as Mr. Bent's, but they're cards that I've been enjoying. So the first one for me is a Gorilla Soldier. It's a 3-cost cunning unit. It's a 2-attack, 3-health unit that has a when played, deal 3 indirect damage to a player, and then if a base is damaged this way, you get to ready the unit. So I've been playing it in pretty much anything that's yellow. Boba Fett, that loves the indirect. New Han and Han 1. So Han 1, you can Han up to 3 resources and play this. And it could be a 5 damage turn 1 play, which can get you pretty far ahead. So even though it's a common, like, I just think it's a pretty cool unit. Also, like, if you're playing against another cunning deck and they're dropping like a crafty smuggler, or you're playing like somebody that's dropping new chronic, those 2/2 shielded units, if they're gonna have to deal damage to their base, so you can get some damage into base. I think it's just a pretty strong, has potential to be a strong card.
How often do you feel like you get the ready effect that you can sequence it to essentially force your opponent to let you play the unit ready by them assigning the damage to base?
More often than you think, and in Han 1, it's like almost all the time. Especially like I've hit it off U-wing a few times, and it's like that 3 indirect is like they can't take it to base because they can't take the 2 damage, but then also if they spread it to their units, they're making themselves, you could set up for better removal and better trades. So I think it does a lot of work for the 3 cost. You definitely get the value out of it. And then in new Boba Fett, right, it's 4 indirect, because when you deal indirect, you can exhaust them and deal another one. So yeah, that's a pretty fun card. Next one I'm digging. I've been playing this in yellow Piet. Shout out to Sam. It's a 5-cost cunning trick event. So if you're playing this with Jabba, it costs 4. You can take control of a non-leader vehicle unit that costs 6 or less without a pilot if you do ready it, and then at the start of the next regroup phase, it goes back to your opponent's hand. So this has been fun playing against like the triple dark raid decks.
Oh,
and then they pull out like Django, right? TDR into Fet's Fire Spray, or TDR into Ruthless Raider, and then it's like, okay, that's mine now. So then you can take it, you can ready it, and you can swing with it. And then they get it back, but you've killed the complete value out of the triple dark raid they were hoping to get. So, and then this is fun too against like any of like the any decks now. Most of them are running some sort of vehicle, just a way to steal and get damage and get rid of your opponent's value and gain value for yourself. It's been a fun card to play with and make my opponent's life miserable. It's like, oh, that's a nice Fet's Fire Spray you have there. It'd be a shame if I smashed you with it.
I love stealing cards from people and then killing their own things with their own thing. Like,
Yeah.
yes, please.
Between this and Traitorous, like I have both of them in Yellow Pia, and you can really make your opponents hate their life.
Man, anytime Thrawn's ability lets me look at the top of somebody's deck and I see Traitorous, I'm just like, cool. There are no targets for that in my deck. Have fun.
Yeah. I'm not playing any units. Joke's on you. All right, the next one that I dig, it's a unit. Dengar, 4 cost, aggression, villainy, 5/4, and then he's a pilot for 2 resources. And when he's a pilot, he's a +1/+2, and the attached unit gains on attack. Deal 2 indirect damage to a player. If it's on an underworld unit, you can deal 3 indirect instead. So I got this in CAD Tarkin Town. I got this in Django, or not Django. I don't play Django. The new Boba Fett, because there's a bunch of underworld space units. I think Dengar's like the best pilot for those decks because CAD Tarkin Town, right? You're pinging damage anyway, and now you're spreading more indirect, and that your opponent doesn't want to deal damage to their units with. And then the +1/+2 is surprisingly relevant, and he's also, if you don't have a unit to pilot him on, he's got good stats. Like he's one of the pilots that you don't feel bad playing the ground if you have to. So I just think he's like an awesome card. I'm super excited to play Dengar in like CAD and Boba Fett and stuff. But yeah, those are the ones I dig.
I thought pilot cards were going to annoy me. I thought they were going to feel like too cluttered and kind of like busy. But it really hasn't. Like I really haven't had any issues like with understanding what they do, or and it wasn't even that I thought they were going to be confusing to read. I just thought they were going to be annoying to look at. But in practice, like on a piece of paper, they look way better than like on the screen. I feel like they're a little busy, but
Yeah, it hasn't been too bad. I think everyone was really excited at first, like on Carabas and stuff playing. There was like pilots everywhere, and like there's still some where there's like a bunch of pilots, but I think people have started to narrow down like the ones that are like good value, like the Luke pilot.
mm-hmm.
It's like a 2 cost 3/2, but for the piloting cost is 3. But when the unit is piloting gets defeated, you just move to the ground arena. Like that's good value. The 4 cost Poe that creates an X-wing token, and then you can make it a pilot on something like that's good value. These people are, I think, figuring out the pilots that are worth the value, whether that's their abilities, if they're good stats, that they're decent to play in the ground arena. Because some of these pilots, right, like if you play BB on the ground, like that feels terrible. If you play the new R2 in the ground, like that feels terrible. So I think you got to find the ones like Legendary Han. If you don't pilot him, he's still a 4/5 with ambush, which is like the same thing Bosk did, right? And Bosk saw a lot of play as a 4/5 with ambush. And then like Chewie still is a 5/6 for 5, right? And then and he still can't be defeated or bounced to hand by enemy effects. So I think you got to find the pilots that are worth their value, either when they're not pilots.
It sounds solid to me. That makes sense. I mean, if the ground unit side is unplayable, then the whole like piloting thing, like the point of piloting to me is flexibility. And if you don't have the like if you can't play this to the ground, well then the pilot side better be really good to make up for it because you don't have that flexibility, and that's fine. But I think you're completely correct in pointing out that the pilots that seem to be rising to the top are the ones that can be played into either arena. And that kind of makes sense. Like it seems like that's what that keyword wants to, or mechanic is maybe a better way to call it. It seems like that's what it wants to do is give us flexibility.
Those are the ones was excited about. Did you have any other cards or anything from Jump to Lightspeed? Any leaders you're excited to build with? Stuff you've seen that you were excited for, but now you're like, oh, that kind of sucks.
I don't play with a lot of aggression cards, but I'm gonna build something where I get to use planetary bombardment for sure. 8 indirect damage to a player, or 12 if you control a capital ship. 12 damage for 6 cost. That's that's way too much fun for me to not eventually build a deck that's centered around being able to rip some planetary bombardments into a win condition. That sounds fun. Nebula Ignition, it's 9 cost, defeat each unit that isn't upgraded. I've been saying for a while that I wish we had more than one Super Laser Blast. That kind of gets us there. Same way Evacuation kind of gets us there as like another board wipe. So that's something I haven't got it into a deck yet, but I want to. There was that, what's that 9 cost command hero ship that lets you like
The
pay half
Starhawk.
cost for your units? Yeah, man, that thing
Yeah,
looks ridiculous.
yeah, yeah. When you pay for costs, it's half the cost rounded up, which is insane. Like it's 9, but like with like the resupply carrier and resupply, like I feel like Han 1 could get there pretty consistently.
So it seems ridiculous. Like I want to build into that at some point. I just,
Like
there's
Han
only so many
endlessly,
hours in the day.
Han 1 Endless Legions, and then you drop like Devastators. And
Dude, I love Endless Legions. It's such a great card.
there's also Turbo Laser Salvo, which is a new legendary event, 7 cost. And when you play it, you can pick an arena, and then you deal damage to all the units in your opponent's on your opponent's board in that arena equal to like a space unit you have. So if you have like a Devastator, you can play Turbo Laser Salvo and deal 10 damage to every unit in one of their arenas. So that is kind of like a board wipe, but
I like it too. How about you, man? Was there anything else that's like in your tier 2 of excited about cards for the new set?
Torpedo Barrage, it's a 3 cost, deal 5 indirect, just straight up 3 for 5. I've been a lot of yellow for me, played. Han 1 and Cat have been my 2 favorite decks, so me playing my favorite cards being yellow or red isn't a big surprise. I think Phasma's cool. I think she's a little too fair. That's how I feel about some of these leaders. Like I really like the new Asajj. She's cool, but I feel like she's probably just a little too fair.
It does look really cool. I'm excited to play with her too.
She's cool. I feel like she's a little too fair. And that's how I feel about Phasma. So like Phasma ECL just kind of replaced like Maul ECL, and that can get that can spike pretty quick because between Phasma leader, like she pings every time when you play a first order unit, you can ping a damage. And then the Phasma unit on played and when attack can buff a first order unit +2/+2. And then the 6-drop Kylo can buff a unit with +2 attack. So like if you get to the deploy with like Phasma leader out and then either Kylo or Phasma, I've been like maining outflank and doing like 10 to 12 damage like in one burst because I've been finding if without outflank I'm like an action behind against like the more aggro decks. I'm always like I need 2 attacks to close the game and before I get spiked, and it just was a little too slow there. So I started running 3 outflanks so that I can spike that 10 to 12 damage to close the game out, and that's been fun. I think I'm gonna try new Vader in there, because it is a 6/7/7. That is another ECL target, and then also I'm running like the Von Reg TIE Interceptor that gets buffs for the higher attack value, and I don't have any pilots in there. So I think new Vader being able to give me like the buff and the overwhelm or whatever could be relevant. So I'm playing with a bunch of crap, man. I got all kinds of stuff built. Thrawn, like 3 different Piet decks, 2 different Thrawn decks, like between red and green. Yeah, Boba, yellow, updating Han 1. I like same so new Han 4, right? Han 4, Han 3, Han 3. The third Han, new Han.
He is a popular character.
He's another one like you basically build all odds with him, but I also think he's just a little too fair because he doesn't do like unfair stuff like other leaders do. So, but he's fun. He's another like tier 2 deck that I think is fun to play, but I don't think we'll see it too many top tables. There's a lot of fun stuff here, so hopefully everyone's enjoying messing around and playing new decks. That was all I had tonight, man.
Yeah, I mainly wanted to get on here and talk about how cool No Glory is and how it's
Yeah.
like my new favorite removable card.
No glory only results, yeah.
Dude, it makes people say the meanest things to me when I play games with them on the internet. So
You need to try it in Neutron now.
yeah, yeah, that is my top. My next Jiu-Jitsu tournament's the 22nd, and after that, I'm gonna like take some time and be like, I'm gonna get caught up on my Star Wars set stuff. I want to play with set 4, so it'll be a couple weeks, and then I'm really gonna be able to dive in. At least that's my plan. We'll see what life has in store for me.
Yeah, cool. Well, anything else for the good of the order?
No, it's good to be back. Missed you, man. It's been way too long since we were able to sit down and talk about some Star Wars.
Real life happens, and that always takes priority over talking about a card game. So
Unfortunately, yeah, that is. We'll cross our fingers. Maybe next time we see each other, Dan will be able to get in here too.
yeah, it's always how it goes. It's like one of us isn't real life, you know. It's just.
I mean, that's the beauty of there being 3 of us, I guess. We have a big enough crew we can kind of cover.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. All right, well, I think that'll do it for us here at Space Arena Ground Arena. Thanks for stopping by, and we will see you guys in the arenas.